There's a moment when we've all felt when you realize someone in your life is no longer safe. It's not loud. There's no dramatic fallout. It's quieter than that. It's the sinking feeling after a conversation when you replay their words and think, did they really mean that? Or the tightness in your chest when you share something personal and their reaction leaves you feeling smaller, not seen. We don't always talk about it, but wise women know this moment well. And more importantly, they know what to do next, not with anger, not with gossip, but with clarity, with silence, with distance, because the strongest boundaries are often the quietest ones. Research tells us that the quality of our relationships directly impacts our physical and mental health. Dr. Julianne Holt-Lundstad's work on social connections shows that poor relationships increase the risk of early death as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Let that sink in, 15 cigarettes. Yet, we still hold on, don't we? We tell ourselves, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. But wise women, they listen to that discomfort and they cut off silently these 5 types of people. The first, the underminer. You know this person. Maybe it's a friend, maybe a family member, maybe even someone you work with. On the surface, they seem supportive. They smile, they nod, they say the right things, mostly. But something about their words leaves you feeling a little less. Like you've been subtly deflated, but you can't quite put your finger on why. You get a promotion and they say, wow, that's amazing. I don't know how you manage that kind of pressure. I could never handle it. Or you mention you're starting therapy and they tilt their head slightly and say, good for you. I mean, I'm lucky I've never needed that, but I've heard it can help people. It's the pause, the hesitation, that little edge, wrapped up in concern or humility. And it chips away at you, piece by piece. Psychologists call it passive undermining, but we know it as that feeling in your gut. You walk away from those conversations thinking, was that support or was that something else? And more often than not, you'll convince yourself you're overreacting, but you're not. Research backs up what your intuition already knows. Dr. Shelley Taylor's work on stress and relationships shows that subtle forms of negativity and close connections can be more damaging over time than outright hostility. The brain perceives those micro hits of criticism wrapped in kindness as threats. And each time it happens, cortisol, the stress hormone, spikes, even if you're smiling through it. Here's what's wild. Studies on feedback and performance show that people who receive constant, low-grade undermining perform worse over time. Not because they're less capable, but because they start questioning their own abilities. That's the hidden cost. You don't just feel bad, you start shrinking. The tricky part is these people often believe they're helping. That's what makes it confusing. They're not throwing stones. They're handing you flowers with thorns. And for women, especially those who are stepping into leadership, starting something new, or breaking generational patterns, this dynamic is even more common. Dr. Joan Williams, a researcher on workplace bias, found that women are more likely to receive soft criticism, the kind that's padded with compliments but leaves you second guessing. It's not an accident. It's how discomfort with female competence often sneaks out in polite society. But wise women, women who've learned the hard way, don't get stuck trying to decode every comment. They trust the feeling. You don't need to analyze every interaction like it's a crime scene. You just need to notice, do you feel lighter after talking to this person? Or smaller? Does their support lift you, or is it laced with doubt? When you start paying attention, the patterns become clear. And the response doesn't need to be dramatic. You don't need a confrontation. You don't owe them an explanation. Wise women step back quietly. They stop sharing their wins with that friend. They don't bring their new ideas to that colleague. They choose safer spaces for their joy and their growth. Because your dreams are fragile when they're new. Your confidence is still taking root. You can't afford to let subtle doubt be the first thing that touches it. Cutting off doesn't mean you don't care about the other person. It means you care about protecting what you're building. And sometimes The kindest thing you can do for yourself and for them is to walk away without noise, without anger, but with certainty. Because a wise woman knows silence is not weakness. It's strength wrapped in self-respect. The second, the chronic taker, you don't see it right away. It usually starts small, innocent even. They need a favor. Of course, you're happy to help. That's who you are. You're the person people can rely on, the one who shows up. But then it happens again and again. And before you know it, you're the one they call when life gets hard, when plans fall through, when no one else picks up. They need advice. They need your time. They need you to listen. Again, and you give it because you care and because somewhere along the way it started to feel like your job until one day you need them. Nothing big, just support. Maybe you're having a hard week. Maybe you just need someone to check in on you. You reach out and the silence is louder than you expected. Or worse, they show up but half-heartedly. They listen, but you can feel their attention drifting. You get off the phone and you don't feel better. You feel lonelier. That's when it hits you. This relationship isn't mutual. It's a transaction. You give, they take. Research on emotional labor, a term coined by sociologist Dr. Arlie Hochschild, shows that women disproportionately carry the burden of tending to the emotional needs of others. We become the default listeners, the peacemakers, the ones who remember birthdays and smooth over conflicts. And when this role becomes expected rather than appreciated, it turns into what psychologists call compassion fatigue. You start feeling drained, not just physically, but emotionally. It's that quiet exhaustion that creeps into your chest, the kind that makes you feel like you've been pouring from an empty cup for months. Studies on burnout confirm this. It's not just about workload. It's about the imbalance between what we give and what we receive. Relationships can be a source of energy or a slow, steady leak. Chronic takers, they are the leak. But here's the hardest part. Chronic takers often don't see themselves that way. They don't think they're using you. In their mind, they're just leaning on someone who's strong, someone who always knows what to say. And that's the danger. You start to believe it too. You tell yourself, they need me. I can handle it. I'm strong. Until you're not. Until you're the one falling apart quietly, showing up for others while neglecting yourself. Wise women see this pattern before it breaks them. They recognize the weight of carrying a relationship alone. They stop measuring love by how much they can endure. And the shift is quiet but powerful. They stop over-explaining. They don't text back immediately. They let the call go to voicemail. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Because here's the truth. Real connection is reciprocal. It's not about keeping score, but it is about balance. You deserve to receive as much as you give. My research on belonging teaches us that true belonging doesn't require us to betray ourselves to be loved. It requires us to stand in our worth and believe that our needs matter too. So wise women step back. They choose relationships where their generosity is met with gratitude, not expectation. They let go with resentment, but with the quiet understanding that their energy is precious. Because a wise woman knows you can't build a whole life while constantly holding up someone else's. The third, the trust breaker. It's not always a big betrayal. Sometimes it's just a small crack. You share something personal, something that took courage to say out loud, and a week later you hear it from someone else. Maybe the details are off, maybe it's softened, but you know exactly where it started. Or it's more subtle. You open up about a struggle and later you sense it being used against you. Not directly, but in a passing comment, a joke wrapped in laughter that lands a little too hard. You tell yourself it's nothing. You give them the benefit of the doubt. You say, they didn't mean it like that. I'm being sensitive. But your body knows.